Now we're joined by Erica Taylor, CEO of the Evansville YWCA. Erica, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the YWCA?
The YWCA is a very long-established nonprofit organization here in Evansville. We were founded in 1911 by Albion Fellows Bacon to provide safe and affordable housing for women coming to the big city. Evansville at the time was a booming area in our region to work here. And so over time, our programs have evolved, but currently we have a domestic violence shelter for homeless women and children, our YES program, and then an after-school and mentoring program called Live Wires.
Wow. And I know that, we've been talking about these opioid settlement funds. Can you walk us through kind of what projects that the YWCA was able to use that funding for?
Sure. So we use the funds for our YES program. YES stands for YWCA Embracing Sobriety. This is a program that provides housing and advocacy and case management for homeless women escaping addiction. The typical program length is 8 to 12 months for a full experience. And during that time, we're going to provide supportive housing as well as case management to help navigate all of the barriers that women are facing as they're trying to come out of a life of addiction. So most of our women come to us completely broken. They've hit rock bottom. They've broken all connection with their family based on lack of trust and boundary breaking, things like that. They've lost custody of their children, maybe even parental rights. They've perhaps been in jail, all the things. And so when they come to us, they really need to be rebuilt whole again. And so we're going to start from the basics by providing all of the essentials like housing, a safe bed to sleep in at night. And then we're going to work from there to address their individual challenges. Everyone comes with their own set of challenges. The common denominator that most of our women share is a life of trauma. Many of them have had trauma in their past, as well as homelessness, addiction, of course. And when they come to us, even though many of them have different stories, they share that camaraderie and that fellowship of each trying to just achieve and maintain sobriety. And through that connection, that fellowship of women living together, it's just a really great support system for them in addition to the staff support they receive from our staff. That recipe for success is there to just really help them as they navigate through their addiction into employment and eventually permanent housing.
And these are a lot of the stories I think that are often untold, right? And you don't hear about. Could you help put into perspective for our viewers at home, like how many women are you helping on a daily basis, weekly basis, every year even perhaps? Like, could you kind of peel back the layer and share perhaps
Sure.
how big of a, not problem it is, but maybe it is? So
the YES program, we have 29 beds in that program. And it is women and sometimes women and their children, depending on their situation. 88% of the women make incomes of $15,000 a year or less when they come to us, and 78% have zero income at all. So we're talking about very high poverty, no resources, no connections to reach out to help them get through this really challenging time in their life. So on average, we're serving around 85 women and children a year through that program. The beds are full almost every night. Typically, there's a waiting list for this program. Many of the women are referred through the Vanderburgh or Warwick County drug courts. We're a great partner to the Vanderburgh County Drug Court as an alternative to incarceration because we know that addiction is a very unique has its own unique set of challenges that may not be addressed while incarcerated. So we are taking women in their most vulnerable state, bringing them to the YWCA for this supportive living environment. It's more than housing, though. We like to stress that. It's more than housing. It truly is a program with lots of resources and opportunities for them to thrive.
So Erica, back to that funding, like what does it mean to you in your organization, what does it mean to you to kind of receive that funding to help with kind of that holistic approach that you've been talking about and not just the housing piece?
This funding has been a true blessing. I think the climate in our country right now, funding sources are drying up left and right, and they have been over the years. It's not just recently. And so to have a set of dedicated funds specifically for this very important work that we do is just incredible because, as a leader of a nonprofit organization, we're always looking for resources and funders and things to make fit for what we're doing. This was an absolute perfect fit for what we're doing. The outcomes that we have, we're reuniting families, we are getting women sober, employed, becoming tax-paying citizens, really remaking a whole person again who came from rock bottom to this thriving human in our community. I can't think of a better way to use those funds, and it's just been a true blessing.
And I know you touched on some of this earlier, but And it's so great the work that you're doing, because it not only impacts, those women's lives, but the broader community. Could you just talk a little bit more about kind of the impact that you have seen in our community on opioid addiction? Like, has it increased? You've been with the YWCA for 15 years. Have you seen it get worse, get better? Like, in your experience, what have you seen, if you could provide some analysis on that?
Honestly, there is not a day that goes by in my time at the YWCA that I don't see the impact of opioid epidemic we see it every day, the women coming in and out of our building. And it's very sad, because I think that there's such a stigma in society about drug use and those people that use drugs. We've had women come to us from every possible scenario you can imagine, from having a very, fortunate background with all of the extracurriculars and the parental support you can imagine, to coming from the streets. And so what we find is that they all have that same goal, that same desire to achieve a life without the crutch of substances. And what I will say is that when people are placing the stigma on addiction, never underestimate how difficult it is to get over that addiction. You can't just say, stop drinking and get a job, stop using drugs and get a job. If you don't have that support system in place, you won't be successful. And so when you talk about a population of people who don't have a support system, having a place like the YWCA, where not only you have that staff support, but that fellowship of women living in community with you and you're sharing similar experiences, it really is so helpful and needed to kind of get out of that, bring yourself out of that, that life of addiction. And another just really important part of the story that I like to share is that we really are helping the community at large. It's not just about that individual woman, and I'll share why. When you think about children that are in foster care, children that are in homes where there's addiction and trauma, when you are making their mother whole again, making her feel supported so that she can get her life together and be sober, that mother is reuniting with her children. She's getting them out of foster care. She's employed. She has stable housing. Those children are going to thrive. She's trying to break that cycle. And so that impacts the entire community. And I think that's a huge part of the story of what we're doing.
And I know you highlighted, a lot of that in there, but if you could kind of leave our viewers at home with one, parting message about the great work that the YWCA does, or something that you hope that they really take away, what would you tell them?
Well, so many people say, when I give tours to donors or community partners, and after they do a tour, they say, wow, I've driven past this building a million times, and I've always wondered what happens here. Yeah. What goes on in that big building at 2nd and Vine? And I would just say that we are truly empowering people to change their lives. We're providing a supportive foundation through our housing and programming and services to really help people discover their potential, and that they're more than generational poverty, they're more than generational abuse and domestic violence and addiction, that they can get through it because they are special, and we try to build confidence in that, behind those walls. We're building confidence and helping people become whole again. So I think that when it comes to the opioid funds in particular, to just know that these funds have been a blessing. They have helped empower countless lives this past year. We've had 88% of our women who have finished the program go on to have permanent housing and employment. That's a huge number. And we're the only program of its kind in our region. The only one. Just think about that. If this program did not exist, where would those women go? Right. What would happen to those children?
That's really incredible to think about, and it's such important work, Erica, and we really appreciate you and everything that you're doing at the YWCA.
Thank you.
Erica Taylor, the CEO of the YWCA. Thanks again for making time.
Thanks for having me.